Hey everybody, welcome back to Stand Up Your Tubes, a circular knitting machine channel that explores new ways to put our tubes together and new patterns you've never seen before. And this is the Mountain Lynx. What do you think? Isn't it amazing? So cute. And I did ask AI what it thought a mountain lynx would look like. And this is what it came up with. Pretty cute, isn't it? So what do you think? How did we do? Well, are you going to stay tuned and make yourself a mountain lynx? This is going to be the third creature in the Nature's Guardian playlist. My lynx is made with Hobby Lobby's. I love this yarn, and it's just gray. And I wanted a nice soft color. It's $4.99 every other week. It goes 1/3 off. So that makes it very affordable. And this is what I have left from doing my project, where the inside of every tube, where it's possible, is made with my what I call my scrap yarn, this yarn. So for the head, to save yarn, it's a 60 row total, but I used my scrap yarn and did 30 rows and 30 rows with my outer tube color. And here is my head tube. So now we need to be able to close this up along the top. So we're folded right on our color change, or you just have it folded in half. And the ears. So I have a piece of cardstock. It can be a piece of paper, anything that you want. And I just folded it in half, went down 2¼ inches because my mountain lynx has big ears. And I want to cut it out. Whoops, I dropped it. Okay, so I cut it like this, and then I'm cutting it in half to give me 2 ears. Ear 1, ear 2, make sure they're the same size. And that's just going to tell me where I'm going to be sewing up. So let's take a minute to heat up our glue gun. And if you have any scraps of fur yarn, and I'm going to just use my gray here, because lynx have fur that sticks out of the tips of their ear. And in order to make this a little bit stiffer so it stands up straight like it does on the real lynx, I'm going to fold it in half, get myself a nice long little piece here, and I'm going to glue it together so that glue can stiffen it just a little bit. And the fur yarn is on mesh, so I'm going to just dribble a real thin bead down on it, fold it in half. And I think that'll stiffen it enough to insert into the tip of the ear right here before we close it up across the top. Okay, I have my silicone mat up. Took me 10 minutes to find my silicone finger protector. And I think I'm going to put my glasses on and run a thin bead. I cut this about 6 inches long just so I would have lots of extra. And I'm just going to run this thin bead right onto the mesh and then fold it over onto the mesh. And that worked pretty well. Well, I'm not even using my finger. Well, there you go. And I think that just might make that stand up a little better, having that glue in there. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So now I have stiff little fur tips that I am going to insert right into the top of the ear, right on my fold line here, so that they can stick out like they do on the lynx. So before you put your glue gun away, let's glue it in. And you want the same amount of tip to show on each one. So I'm just going to take my glue gun and put a little spot of glue right here, just so that we're sure it stays in. Hold this over right into the corner. There's my little tip. It's going to be so cute. Do the same thing over here. So let's close up the top of the head. I'm just going to come right into the side here and tie a knot so I can bury that yarn tail. We have our little yarn tufts right here, but we can get past them. So I'm going to mattress stitch across. That's why we put the little bit of glue in there. I'm on the left side of it right now. And then I'll just go in on the other side of it just to get around it. Because it's right in the corner, so it's just a stitch on each side. Then mattress stitch across. And we're going to bring up our cardboard ears or cardstock, whatever you used. And now we're going to sew up this way and up this way and make our ears. So laying on here, I like to start with the knot. So I'm coming down just a little bit below my piece of paper, cardstock, whatever you're using, and tie a knot that I can then bury. Makes it nice and secure. Holding this right into the tip, it's going to make my guide. Holding it on, I'm now just going to go a little bit past my cardstock. I'm not trying to be right on top of it. In and out, straight up, taking enough stitches that I get it nice and closed up. Coming back up, just keeping track. Going over until I get all the way up to the top so we can shape our head nicely. All right, so let's position our mine are 24 millimeter eyes. You can put sleepy eyes on. Go look at the Arctic Fox. You can just embroider them on. You do not have to have safety eyes. I'm going with 24 millimeter because the Mountain Lynx is going to be watching. And I have my tool that I'll give you a link for that has really saved my hand with these big eyes that are so hard to set. So do a little counting. I put them about where I wanted them, and then I want to make sure they're even, so I'm counting just the little openings in the stitches, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to move it over just one little tiny bit. And I believe that that has lined up my eyes, and I'm going to go ahead and snap the back on. So to make our nose, on your 22 pin, do 15 rows. Then we're going to fold it in half, just like we're making a beanie. Pull this yarn tail through to the other side. Snug it all up so it looks like this. And this is where I tied it all off. And I am going to make this be its little muzzle. And then we'll sew that on and have an adorable little face. As easy as that. And you're going to get under each row. And don't skip a row. That way when you snug it up, it's going to look really good. So if I'm picking my V's that are going out this way, the next one I do, I'm going to look for the V's that are going the same way, and that's the row I'm going to sew under. So now we need to make sure that it will help if your eyes aren't looking perfectly even. You can make it look right by positioning your snout correctly. So I know that I'm going to be stuffing out right in here to make those cheeks come forward. So I'm going to start sewing at the bottom here, come around. But before I close up, I'm going to be stuffing my cheeks in here. So I've snugged up the bottom just a little bit so that I can imagine it coming closed at the bottom. I am up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and I'm going to go ahead and start stitching around. You can go any direction you like. I'm left-handed, so I kind of tend to go the same way every time. So I'm not going to tie a knot so I can snug from both ends. That also lets you start over. And I'm going to just start bringing it around. I got my first couple 3 rows in, and now I want to just stretch it a little bit, so I'm making that snout come out like it has little cheeks, so it's not a complete circle. So that's about right underneath the center of my eye. So just stretching it out, and wherever it's hitting on my head, that's where I'm going in. But I'm still going to make sure that I get under every single row where the V is pointing towards me, because that's the row that I picked when I started. So here's the next one. And now you can see that you just have a beautiful seam there, because I've seen people ask, how can I keep from having puckers? Well, that's how you do it, by making sure you're going under every single row. So let me get further around and we'll stuff it together. Remember, you're elongating it like this. Okay, so this is the shape, just a little bit wider than it is completely round. And going to get those little cheeks out. I have enough opening here to put my stuffing in. And then I'm going to hold it shut. I'm going to imagine it closed. And my little button nose on there. Looks a little bit like a fox, doesn't it? It's amazing how they can just morph into different animals. Hey, but this is going to be a lynx. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that up. Okay, so if you caught every single row where your bees were going either direction you like, meet back at the bottom, snug it up, make sure you don't have any looseness, but don't, over tighten it. Then you can tie these 2 yarn tails together and bury them, and you have a pucker-free nose because you didn't skip any stitches. Okay, so let's outline our eye, because it's these details that really make it look extra special, just taking the extra time. So we want to have a black outline. I'm going to leave a long enough yarn tail to tie off to, and we're wanting to trap our yarn, so we want to have our stitches at the top and the bottom and brought to the corners, so that if we came straight from this corner to this corner, the yarn would come up over the eye. So I'm coming in from the back, coming up right on the top of the eye, and I'm going to bring my corner over, then come right up underneath the eye as close as I can get it. All right, now I've got this beginning of my V going right here. And so I can come over top or bottom and come right back out the same stitch. Come to the center, come out right here, and I have my eyes outlined. So I have 1 row right here. That's how far apart it is, or how far over I came. You can make yours look however you like. And now I'm coming back to the center. And I see that I have a little bobble right here where I didn't come up exactly right, so I can correct it by just taking my needle and coming up closer to that black yarn right there. And now the problem is solved, and it's going to be beautiful. And then when you go over to do the other eye, make sure you travel deep so you don't see that black thread going across there. That is not a good look. Okay, so I have 1 full row, so I'm going to come out right here. So I have 1 full row. So each eye can look the same. And now we have our eye outlined. So it's not just a big round eyeball stuck on its head. So I'm going to repeat. Come in at the top, come out at the corner, make sure I have a stitch at the top, come back over, bring it back out here, and tie it off. Coming out right. Well, that probably will do it. And now we have our outlined eyes that look so much better. So let's go ahead and tie that off behind the ear and bury the yarn tails. All right, so you have the option of sewing a nose on or the pom-pom. And to get my pom-pom ready, I just snip off the back of it so it's flat. Then I know that my nose is shaped like a little bit of a diamond, so I'm just trimming it this way, trimming it this way. So I like it. And now when I put it on, everything wants to roll here. Let me just lay it here before I glue it. You can see that I have that diamond shape. That's easier for me. But before I glue that on there, I want to go ahead and get my mouth coming down. So I know that I'm going to, here's where we cinched it up right here. So that's where I'm going to go in. Going in right where I'm going to be cinching that up. So I'm coming up just right close to my cast on, cast off, because that's going to go under the neck, and I'm popping out on the top side of where I cinched it up, so I'm sure my nose covers it. And I want to come down, and I want that cat look, so I'm coming out on the side here and coming up, going in the same spot. And try to line it up on this side. I might have to have more than one try. Pulling my yarn tail out. See how that looks. And I can be happy with that. I'm going to come right back into the same spot and come down. Come out. Take a look. So my mouth is going down a little bit, not a smile. Our lynx is not smiling, it's watching. Okay, so there we have that cat-like look. Okay, and I'm not going to tie this in a knot yet until I've cinched up my neck. So we're making progress. So now I have my glue gun heated up. You're either going to thread up your needle and put a triangular nose right here. I'm really tempted to do that, but it's just so easy to use this perfect little pom-pom. So I want to put the side that I snipped off, and I have to find it because they look very similar. This is my right side. So I'm going to put a spot of glue on the back of it. It's best not to use too much. And place it right down on for a perfect nose. To me, it's prettier than what I can sew on. We control our tubes and we control our pom-poms. That's perfect. Look at it. I love it. And then just fluff it up a little bit. Looks really good. Now the last little bit is, if you only have one color fur, that's fine. We can put the fur, I'm going to show you my picture that I'm being inspired by, of the lynx's face. Okay, we have our little yarn tips coming out. Can you see that? They're gray. So we could do white on the inside of the ear right here, or if you only have gray, that's fine too. But while our glue gun is heated up, I could put gray right here if that's the only color I had, and bring it on the inside right here, or white. And I have white, so I'm going to use my white to get that contrast. It's not going to really matter. It's going to be beautiful. So it's going to be right here on the inside of the ear. And I think that we're just going to play with it and bring it all the way around to get an even cuter ear. So I'm going to make sure I cut them longer than I need, so I have my fingers, a place for my fingers to grab the fur and hold it while I'm gluing. So it'll be like this, and I'm going to glue it up and then bring it down on the side. And that just gives me a nicer looking ear. Okay, so we're gluing the mesh in, so play with your fur a little bit so your mesh is exposed. I'm going to run a little bead of glue along the top of the ear, put my glasses on. Put your glasses on if you need them. Less is best, right up to the top. And then just lay this in on it. Push it down into your glue. Just like that. We get that beautiful furry ear top. I love it. Don't be afraid to use your glue gun. And if you don't have a glue gun that'll lay a thin little bead of glue down, my Gorilla glue gun has dual temperature and a nice small tip. I've been using it for a long time. It hasn't let me down. So I'm going to just come straight down my row right here to where my ear starts and lay the rest of it down, the mesh into it, and pat it into place. I could trim it off later, and that gives me a beautiful snowy looking ear that looks finished, beautiful. We have our little tips coming up, so I'm going to get the other ear done exactly the same way. Our lynx is beginning to look beautiful. Okay, so the hardest part is done, so let's talk about the body now. It is a total of 80 rows. I'm still using the yarn I don't care for and pulling it up inside. So I did 40 and 40. So when I had a total of 80 rows, if you have plenty of yarn, you can just make it all one color. But if you do a color change, make sure you tie a good triple knot, cut it off kind of small, kind of short. I'm going to pull this up inside here. And I have to have a way to cinch it up. So when you get it folded in half or on your color change, if you're doing my yarn trick to use up yarn you don't care for, right here where the color change is, I have a piece of yarn, thread it up, and right on that color change, I'm going to go over a row, under a row, over a row, under a row, like this, and put a drawstring in. So I'll come right back when I have my drawstring in. Okay, so I have my draw cord yarn in, and I'm going to just snug up the top a little bit, around about 3 or 4 fingers, probably 4, because we're going to do some stuffing, but this just kind of gets it into shape a little bit, like this. Make sure you stretch it out. When we stuff it, we're elongating it so that it gets taller than it does wide. Okay, so I'm going to bring just visually into the center the cord I put into the bottom here to draw it shut. Take out some of the slack. Now this is going to be a paw, and it's got the fatter foot, like this. And the way we're going to make it is to have an inner tube and an outer part of our tube. So if you were trying to save yarn like I was, so I could get by with one skein, then this is 40 rows right here. Then you would have 14 rows of your paw color, and then you could go back and do 40 rows of your gray. But I just kept going with my scrap white. So I did 40, 14, 40, like this. So you're going to have a total of 94 rows. And then when you turn it, you're going to have the white on the tips of the paw. Make sure you tie your yarn tails together and then fold this tube in half. Once you're folded in half, because I have white going all the way up inside, I can't just do this and see if I'm lined up. So I'm going to make sure when I put my drawstring in the end here that I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 And then I'm going to start putting it in because I want it to be folded. So I have 7 on the outside, and then you have your turning one, but the rest goes up inside. And I am going to go over row, over, under, all the way around, and I'll be right back. Okay, so once I have that cord in, I'm going to just snug this up as tight as I can get it, tie it in a knot. And if I need to, I'll take a little stitch right here to close up that point, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. That's something I might do in a little while. Right now, let's stretch this out. And since it's a circle, it doesn't matter where you start here, but like I did on this one, I want to make it a little bit narrower above the paw. So I'm taking my bobby pins, I'm picking my row that goes each side, either way you want your point to go. And I'm putting it in that row, then I'm having 4 of those rows open between my 2 pins. So if I'm in this row and this row, then I have 4 open rows. So let me get stuffing in my paw. And to do that, I'm going to fold this tube in half. It's going to make it easier to get it down into the paw. We want our lynx to be able to have snowshoes. It's going to be snowy. Okay, so I have that stuffed out pretty good. And to make it easier on me, I am going to lightly stuff up my leg so that when I mattress stitch it, I have some stuffing in there that I'm just closing up around. I'm going to cinch up the end here just a little bit just to control it, just to make it nicer. Okie doke. So my toe is puffed out, so let me get some yarn to sew with. Okay, so I'm following my row down, and I'm going to just tie off right here. I just went under a stitch with my needle. And so that's this row, and I'm going to follow this down to here and come over here and mark this row, and I'm going to pull these together and tie this. So I'm tying it together. And this doesn't narrow it a lot, but it makes it be less fat. Okay, so now I'm just going to fold it down like this, find my row that I've marked with my bobby pins, and I'm just going to do 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars all the way up, mattress stitching in these rows. It's actually this, if this is row 1, then it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let me get mine sewn up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I made it all the way to the top, and now I'm just going to knot my thread off and bury this yarn tail. Make sure your stuffing looks about the same. You might have to add or take away. And on this one, I think I'll add because this one is sturdier. Our back paw is going to consist of 3 tubes. So make on your 22 pin, we're going to make 2 tubes that are 60 rows each. And then we are going to fold it in half like we're making a beanie, just like this. Match up our top edges. And then on this edge, insert a drawstring so that we can close it up on both ends. So we'll cinch it closed on this end put our drawstring in, stuff it, and close this end up. And then we're going to have a stuffed out paw pad. And then the gray part that you're going to see in a minute is going to consist of 2 separate tubes so that we can easily cinch it up here and here without having to have a drawstring in it. And we could have done it on this one by doing 2 30s, then pulling both ends closed. So that would be an option if you wanted to have 4 30-row tubes. You wouldn't have to have a drawstring. But get that stuffed out, and then we're going to crank out 4 of our gray on our gray. So each one of these are 20, and we're going to do 4 of them. And it's going to make it really easy to make this paw pad so that we have like a fat little paw pad here. And this is going to add definition. So come to the bottom of your paw pad. And I have my yarn tails from both tubes. And I'm going to snug that up and make sure that it's rolling down and it looks nice and neat. And when I cinch it up, it's going to give me my paw pad definition here, and then we'll put our claws on. So I'm going to come to the other side, check and make sure everything's nice and neat. And I'm going to snug it up. Give it that little pull so I get that definition of a fat little paw here, because they run around on the snow. And that's their claim to fame. They have like snowshoe paw pads. I'm still going to take a stitch into with the weight of my paw, just to add a little security here that it's not going to try to slip. And then snug that up. And we need a tail. So on the 22 pin, with your body color, 15 rows. And then I looked online, and their hallmark is that they have a black tip. So I tied on my black and cranked until I had a total of 22 rows. Then where you do your color change, just make sure you've tied it securely. And if you want a nice, neat color change, you just pull it a little harder, and it pulls that together and gets rid of that jog. So I want to snug that up. I usually triple tie mine and then snip it off pretty close so I don't see like the black traveling through the gray. Just quickly, we're going to cinch up the tip. Cinch up this end. So thread up your needle. You might want to sew with the black, or you might want to sew with the gray, depending on how long your yarn tail is. So I'm going to just put a knot in the end here. And I think I have plenty of gray to sew with, so I am going to bury this yarn tail real quick. Up inside my tube. Just pulling it up in there. And I am going to mattress stitch it closed. I'm going to pull it shut all the way to the end. And if you want to, you can put just a little bit of a curve on it. And I'm going to tie a knot and bury my yarn tail. And my yarn is so long that when I pulled it up to bury my yarn tail, I just popped out at the top. And I'm going to tie a knot here so that when I'm sewing, I'm not curving my tail. And then I'm going to use this yarn tail to sew. When we sew it on, we're just going to flatten it out. And here's where we cinched it. We're going to be sewing right out here. So we have more stitches, and we'll just smush it up against its butt, make sure it's on the table, and sew it on. As easy as that. All right, so let's just put our pieces together. So we have our head, we have 2 arms, we have 2 legs. So on the head, I cinched it up over 3 fingers like this and secured it. And that way I could add more stuffing up into the head after I got it cinched up and make sure that I like the shape of it. I did the same thing to the top of the body tube. I cinched it up around 3 fingers like this and tied it, and then I could actually stuff into the shoulder area. I still have it open at the bottom, so that's our safety net. We don't close that up till the very end. So then take each of the arms, and I just am sewing them center, like down below the ear, where I think it should be, and coming over the shoulder, down, and coming back up around. So we have we're not just staying right on the where we cinched it up. We're coming back a couple stitches, and so that we actually have some substance to sew on. And we're going to do both arms that way. You can see right here, I've closed up the bottom. I want to have these legs sitting on the table. So I stand my little guy up, and you can see some toenails here. We're going to do that in a minute too. But line them up with the arm. Make sure we have no stuffing right here at the top of our leg. We didn't add anything so that our leg wouldn't stick out too far. And I just sewed around, brought it in against the body and just sewed around till I had all 4 limbs on, and they look pretty cute with the toenails, don't they? And the head, just like that. So we're just sewing around, just like we do every stuffed animal. And now we can move on to the next step. Let's go ahead and make the beautiful cape for the Mountain Lynx. It's cold up there in them thar mountains. So these are 3 tubes, 50 rows long, and I used Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn because I knew that it would crank out flawlessly, and it's a soft green color. If you want to know the color, it is clover. And I'm going to lay them out, put the beginning yarn tails into the center. I'm going to pick my row to sew in and mattress stitch all the way up until I have all 3 of them mattress stitched together. So pick your row. Make sure that your V's are going the same direction. Mine are going to have the points going this way. And it's just a matter of 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, all the way to the top. Repeat and join me back. The beginning of our cape. All right, so I didn't even tie these. I just mattress stitched up to the top. So I have several yarn tails coming up this direction. So this is going to be the bottom of the cape. And I am going to bury the yarn tails where I first tied off to start going up. So I have 2 of those to tie off. Then I'm going to just make sure that it's not too snug. Okay, so I'm going to do that by drawing it up over my hand and then pulling it back out. Drawing it up over my hand and then just pulling it back out. Same thing here, to tighten up those stitches a little bit. And now it's way less loopy. That fixed it. All right, so I am going to tie my yarn tails because that secures our tube in 3 places here, knot it off, and then I'm going to start whip stitching it closed. All right, so this is the fun part. Get your glue gun heated up, get yourself a nice piece of glue, and I'm going to trim the ends with this really, really, really chunky yarn that I got at Walmart. I've had it for a long time, but it is going to be perfect for a winter cloak because a Mountain Lynx lives in the snowy, really, really cold weather. So we're going to make it nice and warm. So what I did, I whip stitched both ends closed and made sure I secured the 3 points where we cast on and cast off, and then whip stitched, whip stitched. Then I put a drawstring in. I counted over 10 rows on each side, counted down 9 rows, and then went over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Then when my glue gun was hot, I simply went all the way with a really thin bead of glue. You don't want to get over aggressive with it. You don't want it to go through. And I put a silicone mat under it just to protect my table. Just start gluing it. A thin bead of glue, go all the way around, and then join back. I wanted the front edge to be doubled, so where your yarn tail comes up, see how it's doubled? I flipped it over and just put a short piece right here. And then if it came apart right here, I just put a tiny little bit of glue in here and pushed it together to cover up that front edge. So when we put the cape on, we have a nice front edge. Then over 10, down 9 becomes where we draw this up to go around the back of the neck. And let me bring our little lynx up. About time to get dressed. And you can see how warm this is going to be. Right here where the yarn tail comes out is where it comes under the neck. So we're controlling how much we're cinching it up like this. And then I'm going to tie a bow so I can start snugging it. I want it to come together under the chin like this. Look around the back, make sure that's a nice look. It's so cute. Okay, and then I'm going to tie it in a bow. If I like it, then I'm going to knot my bow. And I want that to be closed up a little more. And I'm going to do that by bringing it into my lap, but you get the idea. Well, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. So then you have this beautiful cape on. Look, so warm, so glorious, so cute. Just like that. It's that easy. And we get a nice finished edge without having to use waste yarn, which on 50 row tubes, if you were using waste yarn and then trying to finish your end off and you dropped a stitch, it'd be so sad. Okay, so let's put the toenails on. So easy. I just came in right here with my black yarn and popped out right on my color change. Actually came out on the right above it. And then brought it down and came in on the underside right here. Then came back up 1.5 rows over, came back down, brought my needle back up 1.5 rows over, came back up 1.5 rows over, then shot my black yarn back to where I first started, tied them together, and buried my yarn tail. Did the same thing on this one. So I have 4 strands coming down, flipped it over, did the same thing on the back feet. Well, that didn't take very long, did it? So what do you think? Are you done, or do you want to go a little bit further? This is AI generated, but it's pretty cute, isn't it? Who knew AI could come up with such a cute little face? But see the little whiskers coming down? It has some little whiskers coming out the sides. So are you going to stick around and actually have something this cute, or are you done? Well, I hope you stick around. So to do the ruff coming from the ear down, it's easier to work with yarn that's too long and then trim it than it is to have it too short and you know, fumbling with it. So I just randomly cut out several pieces 8 inches long. I'm coming in vertical, not across my stitch, but up and down like this. So they're running this way, and I'm just going to pick up a thread right here. But look at the picture one more time. It's coming from under the ear Might be easier to see it on this side, and coming towards the mid of its cheek, coming around like this. So I started up at the ear on this side, and I just stayed about a row down, right about here, came straight up, and I'm tying a knot. So it's not going to show like it would if you were going across, because you're in one bar, and it's just going to hang down. Then I'm aiming towards the side of my cheek, and I'm going to get in every single row. If you want to mark it with a pin, that would work. So I'm going to do this, the next row over. Just bring it up. And this is why I think it's easier just to use a needle. We're just on a single row. And just let it hang down. And then aiming it down a little bit towards its snout. So here's what I have over here. I've already trimmed this. It just gives it that little ruff. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to do these little whiskers. So when I get mine coming down, I'll show you how we're going to make them look like this side. So don't skip a row. Every single row, and you're going vertical. Be right back. I tied on 8 strands, stopping just shy of the muzzle, just a stitch down from the ear, 8 strands. And now, if you wanted to, you could trim them off a little shorter. Don't go overboard yet, so you don't have so much to untwirl. And then start on the bottom, get each one. Let's see if I can. I'm going to do it on the top right here so you can see it. Counterclockwise spin it, and you'll be able all the way up to where it's knotted to separate it into 4 strands because it's 4-ply. And now you've got that little wispy look. So let's do one more. This is going to make it look more lynx-like. And this is optional. If you like just the little stuffed animal look, you don't want to go this far, then you're done. But you can see it's starting to look like this, and then we'll just trim it just a little bit, and then I'll show you how easy it was to get these little whiskers that kind of stick out like that. It's a little trick. I'll be right back when I have all of these uncurled. Counterclockwise is the way you turn it. That literally just took me a couple minutes. And now, look at the picture again. It's a little longer in the front, a little shorter coming up. And so when you're trimming it, just don't get too carried away. You can go back and trim it a little more, but you can't add back onto it. A little bit like this. What do you think? Now, the whiskers. I'm actually making them the soft gray rather than the white. So here's how we're going to do it. I have one of my strands left over. I'm going to cut another one. These don't have to be as long. Let me get my yarn. Okay, so I'm doing these as sets. So for the first 2 whiskers, I came up underneath the chin, pulled this whisker, came down, tied it off, and buried my yarn tails so that these are secure. So how did I do it? So I'm using my white yarn, so it matches my muzzle, coming up underneath the muzzle. I'm going to set them up, decide where the next little pair of whiskers will be. And I think I'll bring it a little closer towards the nose. Okay, so, and leave a yarn tail. I'm popped out. See where I am right on the nose there? So I'm going to take my little whisker and I'm going to tie it on. And knot it. Like that. Okay, then with the yarn tail under the nose, I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to come right back in that same hole, Has to be the same hole you popped out of. Okay, and I'm going to come back down under the chin, right where the muzzle's sewn on. And now, if I pull both these yarn tails, I'm sucking this whisker down into the muzzle. And it's securely tied, and I actually want it to go in and just have its little yarn tails hanging out. So the knot is inside the muzzle now. Okay, so now I have 4 little whiskers. I'm back out at the bottom here, and I pulled that knot down. So I'm going to come back up again. Here's my original yarn tail. Going to come back up again, try to match it so that they look a little bit even. So probably about right here. Come back up. Tie my next whisker on. Like this. Go back down through that same hole, and I'm going to have to turn it around and get my glasses on and find that same hole. Hold on. All right, so I found it. Pulling it down. Have both my yarn tails. I'm going to pull that knot as much down into the muzzle as I can. And now I have my little whiskers hanging down. If you don't like them, or you don't like the way you lined them up, then you can just start over. But I'm going to just go with two sets on each side and tie it off underneath the chin and have whiskers. I have cut, a couple inches of fur, and I'm playing with it, and I'm seeing that the fur wants to go this direction. If I go down on it, it becomes really fuzzy. This smooths it out. So I think that that's the direction I want it to go, is up. And I'm going to trim it after I get it on, so that's why it's so long. I want the mesh to be down, so I'm going to just hold it in my fingers like this. Ready to lay it down. See how dark the mesh is? And I'm going to make it 3. I'm counting the holes in between, so I'm going to do 3 right above my eye. Maybe 4. Think 4. Doesn't take much. Stopping at that hole right there. And I'm just going to lay this down in it. The mesh, and once it's dry, then I'll trim it at the top and the bottom, because it's only going to stick where the glue was. Same thing over here. Figure out which way my yarn wants to go to be up, and that's up. If I go the other direction, it'll make it fuzzy, which is cute. I love the fuzzy look. Okay, getting my mesh out. Okay, here. And by having a nice long piece, if you need to straighten it up in any way, you have enough left to add a little glue. Like if one looks a little longer than the other, you could add a little glue to the short one. You can play with it a little bit more. But that was just so easy. I have to let that dry. I'll snip it off and we'll look at it again. Aren't they cute? So the last thing we're going to do is almost imperceptible. We're just going to pinch the top of the ear together. Coming in. You might have a little glue to deal with to try to get your tip of your needle to go through. But because we have fur here, you can just work with this fur. And your yarn is just going to hide right in it, and you can pinch that tip shut. Tie it. Let your fur be your friend. snug it up, and bury the yarn tails. And that just pulls the tip of the ear together a little bit. It's almost imperceptible, but it makes our little tufts, ear tufts, look a little cuter. I'm going to bury that yarn tail, and I'll show you the finished product. So what do you think? Whiskers, the fringe, tufted ears, little eye. I don't know what these are, but they're in the picture right down here. How cute they are. So this is our Mountain Lynx, nature's guardian. It leads the weary, lost traveler home through the snow. And when they arrive home, they never once laid their eyes on the Mountain Lynx. All right, that's it. I'm so glad that you watched. I hope you'll make a Mountain Lynx. I hope you check out the playlist for Nature's Guardians. This is the third creature to make it into the playlist. We gave it nice big snowshoes feet so it won't sink into the snow when it comes to rescue us. I just think it's adorable, and I so hope that you will make a Mountain Lynx with the warm cape and all the little extras we did to just make it so special, including the whiskers. All right, God bless you.